after teasing out the idea of short-term and long-term goals, we want to be able to then specify what those goals are and make sure that we're hitting a spectrum of goal specifics. And so what I mean by that is we have outcome goals, which are like, I want to have climbed the free rider. We have performance-oriented goals, which have more to do with how you are going to climb. So if I have this outcome goal of I want to climb the free rider, a performance goal might be I'm going to climb it in 4 days from the ground up. Things that are more associated with the how of the outcome-oriented goal. And then we have process-oriented goals. And that would be like the stepping stones to getting there. And so process-oriented goals are going to be like addressing skills that are necessary for climbing on the free rider, addressing technique, addressing your mental aptitude, addressing anything along those lines that has less to do with the outcome and more to do with the how, what, and why of the training or your outcome goal. And the reason that we want to be able to divide our goals between those 3 categories, outcome, performance, and process, is because most people live in the world of just talking about an outcome goal. I'm going to send this 14B this weekend. Well, that outcome goal is, you have very minimal control over that happening, right? And so then our window of success becomes very narrow, which then translates into my relationship with success is an either or. I have succeeded and I'm happy about it, or I have not succeeded and I'm upset about that. But with outcome goals, we have very little control over that. And performance and process-oriented goals, we have a lot of control over those. They keep us focused on specific tasks that we can address ourselves. The process of things, so skill development, strength development, those kinds of facets of climbing or like the relationship to your outcome goals, you have much more control over those things and your success rate inevitably goes up. And one of the things we know about setting goals that are both across the spectrum of process, performance, and outcome, and success within those goals keeps our motivation high and it keeps our belief in ourselves high, which then helps us strive continuously over time. So again, making sure that we're dividing our attention of goals between process goals, performance goals, and outcomes, so that we can also be flexible within the things that we deem worthy of success. A sneaky thing with goals is that a lot of times we can get trapped in only thinking about performance goals. And so it will be important to remember along the lines of the process, performance, and outcome goals to be reminded that to practice goal setting and goal achievement within training framework. And so not only do we need to have focus and goal orientation that is like competition specific or outside specific, but we also need to have like daily and weekly training goals for ourselves so that we can set intentions for those sessions. So I wake up in the morning and I know that today I want to lift 215 pounds on my deadlift 15 times during that session. And that gives me a real specific orientation and direction to maintain while I'm at the training session, so that if I get derailed chatting with somebody or there's a piece of equipment that isn't available, it allows me to decide what I can and cannot do or how much time I spend chatting with somebody. And much like process, performance, and outcome goals, if we can set ourselves consistent daily and weekly training goals, in the achievement of those goals, we are continually checking a box that allows us to believe in ourselves and stay motivated over the long term. People tend to think in either approach terms, which is like, I need to stand really hard on my feet during that crux, or they think in avoidance terms, which is, I really need to not drop this crux this time so that I can make it to the top. Those are conflicting ways to think, and they're very detail oriented and can be sneaky. And the reason being is that approach versions of a goal, which is like, I need to stand hard on my feet during the crux, that's more framed in more of a positive orientation and success orientation. So I'm worried about the successful outcome of moving through a crux. Whereas avoidance goals, I need to not drop the crux this time, that is more negatively focused on failure. And what we want to avoid in our goal setting is setting avoidance goals. And the reason being is because we want most of our goal orientation to be success and positive oriented, so that it can kind of keep us moving in that successful direction. Whereas if we tend to set our goals in a failure orientation, then we're worried about failing all the time, and that's where our energy is focused. And paradoxically, when we are focused more on failure or avoiding something, we tend to actually do the thing that we're trying to avoid altogether. With goal framing specifics, once you have the details down of what it is you actually want to do, then you need to decide when you're going to do it and what that date is. And so we want to keep your goals timely and give them an end date, or give them a time frame that they will operate in for the next 2 weeks. I want to do this by August 15th of 2023. Specific timeframes like that help you create an urgency around the goals that you're trying to achieve. In contrast to that, what we see is the paradox of the local, which is thinking that, oh, I've just got an unlimited amount of time to achieve the things that I'm trying to achieve. And so if I fall on my project tomorrow, I'll just come back the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And then all of a sudden you've given yourself so much leeway that you never actually put emphasis on the things that you want to do, because you feel like you've just got an unlimited amount of time to get them done. So even if you're somebody who lives in an area where you have an unlimited amount of climbing available to you, while that's wonderful, we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves time components to these goals so that you can continue to create a sense of urgency around them, a positive sense of urgency, so that you can strive towards them rather than just like hoping and dreaming that they will happen someday in the future. So we have a final few things to focus on in terms of goal orientation, how you relate to the goals, what you do with them. It's important to remember that while coming up with goals, whether they're short-term or long-term, whether they're process-oriented or outcome-oriented, stating them out loud or keeping them in your head is not enough. And what you need to do beyond that is to write your goals down somewhere that you have frequent access to, and create an achievement plan for the goals. So if I'm to say I'm a 12A climber and I want to climb 13A in a year, how am I going to do that? Part of that is related to the short-term goals along the way, and part of that is related to coming up with a daily and weekly plan about how you're going to achieve those goals. So I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. 2 of those sessions are going to be strength and power oriented, and 1 of those sessions is going to be endurance oriented. And during those sessions, what do I do for the specifics of them? So you're creating a very detailed short-term map of how you're going to achieve anything from skill development like drop knees or tactical development like acquiring beta. So you need to break this down to a micro scale, rather than just saying, I'm going to climb 13A in 1 year. You're saying, here's exactly how I'm going to do it. And putting all of this on paper is really important. Getting it out of your head and having it concrete on a piece of paper or in some sort of framework that isn't your mind is really important, so that you can review what you've said you are going to do in the future, and you can evaluate the effectiveness of the plan. It's really challenging to have a nebulous goal in your brain and then simultaneously review the things that you said you were going to do, evaluate the effectiveness of your actions, and then make behavioral or habit changes moving forward to give yourself a better opportunity of success. And so what we need you to do is write down the things that you say you're going to do, create a detailed roadmap for how you're going to get there, whether that's through skill work, technical work, whether that's tactical and mental emotional work or physical training, doesn't really matter. You're creating a checklist for yourself that you can look back on in a weekly and monthly manner and say like, okay, that framework didn't really work for me. Here's how I'm going to move forward, and evaluate it so that you can continue to persist towards your goals in the future.